Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's Pio Marola here, and welcome to this new exciting session about the future of AI, why the US election could be a game changer. It could be a game changer indeed, as we are looking at two different ways of evolving with the topic of artificial AI, whether we want to go with more of an unregulated form of AI, or whether we want to make sure to protect all the human rights and the things that obviously people care about and would want to have addressed. But before we get to the topic of the day, I would like to ask you, where are you coming from? Leave a comment there. Let us know where you are at the moment. Let us know what's the weather right now as well. That would be great. We have wonderful weather here in Yerevan, capital of Armenia, and we're still going to have a good couple of weeks with around 30 degrees and sun, as always. So the topic of today is quite exciting, as we are really at the turning point in the evolution of artificial intelligence. And it will inevitably affect both, society and the corporate world, as organizations will need to comply and will need to adapt to whatever form of, whatever approach politics will take to artificial intelligence. We have Stefan here, Denmark, sunny, 20 degrees. Welcome, Stefan. Happy to have you with us. And for today, of course, we have two amazing experts, two people that we had as guests to our sessions many, many times, always or almost always focusing on artificial intelligence in connection with PIM and in connection with master data management. This time is quite of an unusual session, as we're covering not only the data aspect of it, but we're also covering the societal impact that AI will have overall. We have Albis Meyer and Jürgen Müller from Via Medici. And we have Natalia as well, of course, in Prague, taking care of the ThinkRinkers office and headquarters, of course. We have Alberto as well, Bruxelles, 20 degrees, sunny now. And welcome to all of you. Without any further ado, let me introduce on stage once again Jürgen Müller and Al Bismayer. Hello, Al. Hello, Jürgen. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Yeah, thanks. Great, Pio.
Very good. Very good. Now, I know you've been with us so many times. Almost everyone in the audience know about you. But for those that don't know about you yet, tell us something about yourself.
Yeah, so maybe I start quickly. My name is Jürgen Müller. I am a co-founder and CEO of Via Medici. In Via Medici, we are dealing with PIM, MDM solutions. So all about data management and making structured and high quality data available for lots of different purposes. So this is actually what we are doing for more than 20 years now. And this is also one of the foundations for the application of AI today. So this is also why we in our company are dealing so much with AI currently. And of course, same because of the consequences AI also has on software development in general. So that's also a reason why we have our own AI development units, etc. So this is definitely a super important technology for us.
And I'm Al Bismeyer. I'm the Global Vice President of Via Medici. I've been in the industry for about 35 years or so, and I've been in the MDM and PIM space for probably about 15 or 20 of those years, obviously before then working with data management. And I've worked with a number of customers around the ML and AI area. Obviously with MDM and product information management, we see the evolution from ML into AI and its use within our customer base. And so it's an exciting topic, and obviously we talked about this in different flavors or slices in the past. But I think this is a very good topic for today.
Absolutely. Al, can you move a little bit more in the center of the camera? We're missing a little bit of the other
Sure.
side. The other side.
Other
Yeah.
side. Okay, there we go. Is that better?
Okay. Absolutely. Now I get. Now I can see. Now we can see.
Good.
Very good. So indeed, it's quite a crucial topic. But let us explain a bit to the audience why the U.S. election could be such a big deal.
Well, I think maybe, so really absolutely basic, AI is so big, and also the transformation that comes with AI and the at least the potential influence on almost everything is so big that this is definitely also that there's also a very important political factor to it. And the US election, this simply is again visualizing this even more because here we really have also two different philosophies on how to handle it and how to deal with it. But I think the general thing is also in our other sessions we were talking about how to handle AI, plan for it, use it. We were discussing some risks and all that stuff. And I think at the moment the world tends to go for kind of responsible approach on using AI. So this is at least what I guess most are feeling right now, and there are many dealing with it, and we have some compliance things and some regulations. We have the European AI Act that is quite comprehensive and constantly being extended. So in many countries you have initiatives like that. There are also some initiatives in the US, of course, not that big yet, but there are some. But it is, as I already mentioned, it has a political dimension, a really big political dimension. And right now we see a US election. We have a situation that we have one party that also is more about a responsible approach. More or less continuing this kind of policy, but there's also the opposite way of thinking. So we also have a way of thinking which is more about, okay, we don't need that. We don't need all these regulations. We want a more, non-regulated economy, also regarding AI topics. So more freedom for enterprises, for entrepreneurs, etc. So there's definitely also a reason for it. So there is some argumentation. I don't say that this is necessarily good or the better way to do it. Absolutely not. But it is simply that the whole topic is really big and has a significant impact on lots of things. And so we have this strategic, political aspect to it that many so far did not really consider, not at all. So I think it was always there, but people did not really feel it and not consider it. But now it's directly there. So we are going in a situation where it will be decided a little bit if we move this direction or if we move this direction. And it has a significant impact, what we are also going to discuss now in this meeting.
Good. Al, what do you think?
So I have some different. So I guess I have a few different things to kind of think about, and I think a lot of this is relative. Okay, it's relative in terms of pace and speed and what's going on. I think in some respects, large language models and ChatGPT and AI in general have in many respects kind of exceeded expectations. Last week Walmart came out with an article saying that ChatGPT was 100 times more productive for product updates than people. So it's like that's an alarm bell right there. Or you look at the Gartner report that comes out and says, in 2026, 75% of updates will be made with ChatGPT as opposed to 5% last year. So, from that perspective, the use and implementation of AI and its development is really moving very quickly. But at the same time, to Jürgen's point, uh, it's a difference between unrestricted which is innovative, and restrictive. So, in last year, Biden came out and did a executive order on AI, which inhibited or limited what could happen from a developmental perspective in terms of AI. And what that did is it really said that if you're developing an AI application for the federal government or for the military or any of these types of things, that you have to validate the model within those organizations. You have to go through processes. And as you know, anytime you go through a governmental thing, it's bureaucratic, so it kind of slows down the development. So you're running into situations where, on the one hand, if you regulate things, it may slow the speed with which you're developing or new AI applications for their implementations. And as you know, many times some of the big breakthroughs that we have with any type of technologies are usually funded from governmental initiatives, essentially. And so from that perspective, regulating and having something that has governmental oversight can kind of limit innovation, and it also limits what you want to share. Some of the Silicon Valley companies do want to go giving your secret sauce out to the government so that they can review it, essentially. And so there isn't that's one scenario, and you kind of see where that can go from how quickly is AI evolving based on that regulation. And then the flip side is, if you have a different policy that's more, hey, there's less oversight and you can kind of, go for it, then you're going to have a lot quicker development, which will not be regulated, which could be good and bad. So you can see there's an inflection point, and the election will have a lot to do with where things go from that perspective moving forward.
Yeah. And the issue there could be that companies would just leave the country that is highly regulated, and go somewhere else where they can move faster and where there is less intervention from the government, quite simply.
Yeah, so that's one possibility. That's one option, of course, that companies simply move to where the overall kind of environment is best for developing and marketing such technology. That's definitely one option. But I would also say that general, it's a different kind of competition coming up. So AI is really, it has the potential of a technological revolution that is fundamentally changing the way we live, the way we work, the way we deal with each other. So all that, and it also has a really major impact on military and defense, a major impact on economy in general, and as a result, also it could also have a major impact on the wealth of people and nations. So this is really a big technology. We had this, if you look at Germany, where we are from, so Germany was big in car industry, in car manufacturing. So, and this was also, it was a technology that really, everybody wanted to have a car. So it was huge market potential, everything big. And this got a lot of wealth to Germany. So it was one of the leading car manufacturing countries, and a lot of wealth to everybody. A huge car industry, huge automotive supply industry, etc. So very strong. This is something completely different. This is digital, but as I mentioned, it has a significant impact. So it has a major impact on how strong your military is. This is highly political. And very strategic. You don't want others to be stronger than you are and things like that. And it is also changing. It's a game changer in the economy. So that is a big topic. We have some ideas how business models will look like or could look like, and what you could do with it and all that stuff. This is not final yet. This is all in progress. But it is really developing extremely fast. And what is already clear is that in the end, we will see a very big new industry complex emerging. And this is not only the AI companies that provide AI software and technologies, so it's all the stuff around as well. So you already see today how companies are benefiting that, for example, provide equipment that you use in order to operate large language models. Like microchips, etc. So the very advanced stuff. So you also have huge demand. So this is really extremely important. And because of this, it's becoming strategic. And here we have different policies. So we have one policy, and as Al was already mentioning, we really do have this conflict a little bit. Let's go between a responsible approach, which also means a little bit restricted approach, because there are risks. There's a risk of social harm, there's risk of misuse, there's also the even bigger risk of a complete loss of control if you have very advanced AI models, then this is definitively a risk as well. But regulating is also a little bit in conflict with innovating and innovation and the speed of innovation. A very simple example here. It's in developing new drugs. So AI can definitively, significantly support and speed up the development of new drugs. In order to do so, it requires a lot of data. So if you had the data from all the patients in the world available, this would be a kind of game changer for the development of new drugs, but you don't have, of course. So if you are more about data privacy, data protection, and all that stuff, then it might not be that easily available, and you don't have access to all the data immediately. The consequences, so you do better in terms of data privacy, etc. It is also better in terms of avoiding misuse and things like that of that data. But the result is that you will not speed up the development of new drugs in exactly the same way. So it will be less. So deregulating the market would help you here. This is one example. But the same is also on a larger scale. The same actually also in the general development of AI capabilities and how fast to move. So if you're in a more regulated area, so then you will move slower. If you have less regulation, you can move faster. And this is what I think here is really where the political influence comes in. And this is not only about market factors anymore. So here it's really about what you want to achieve. And if you want to achieve that maybe your country is becoming the #1 in AI technology in the future, then going for less regulation might be an option. And this is exactly what we have right now. We have one of your president candidates who is very clearly follows this strategy. So make America not only great again, but also make it the absolute top leader in AI technology. And in order to do so, #1, get away with those restrictions as much as possible, because this helps the industry, this helps the Silicon Valley tech companies, etc. And then also come up with sanctions, etc., to make sure that others do not really have access to some parts they need, like very advanced microcomputers and things like that. So it's a package, it's the whole package. As a result, so if it works, then you ensure that you are extremely strong. You are leading in a very important technology, and as I mentioned before, this technology can create a lot of wealth. It is a game changer general in the economy, and it is also a game changer in military and defense. So there are several reasons for it. And I think this is something that many people did not really consider. that the impact of the technology is that big that we really have these more strategic aspects to it with the political decision makers, and that they are really not, they are prepared to accept a higher risk related to the technology, just to be in a better position overall. And here we have the situation. Trump, he actually mentioned already several times that he would first day in office cancel the existing regulation and make it much easier. So I'm not sure if it's first day, but maybe first week.
Well, actually, it's funny. First of all, I totally agree with you, Jürgen. But the other thing I was going to say that you touched on is not just the regulation, it's the investment. It's a totally different mindset in terms of investment. So if one group wants to say, hey, we're going to go be the number one in AI and beat China and take on the world, and invest in it, that's one type of accelerator versus another group that wants to have more level playing field, less investment, like not taking on. And so very different mindsets. So it's not just the regulation side in terms of the models or oversight and that type of thing. It's actually the fuel, the investment, the push to let Silicon Valley, kind of do their thing and go be number one. So it's we're at an inflection point. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and exactly this mindset might also influence and change the way others will act, because it doesn't really help if you have maybe great AI regulation in place in one region if the other regions do not have. So in the end it's one world, and this is a global technology. So if large parts of the world simply go for a completely different strategy, then, like for example, the current European approach, which is quite restrictive and really very much about responsible development and usage of AI, then it's this is a question mark. If they can really stick to it, also have to rethink and maybe change the overall strategy. So it's really that all this is influencing things a little bit, and it's not that governments, nations, trade organizations are really completely independent in their decisions. They're actually not. So they have to carefully analyze and evaluate what is happening in the world, and then adjust their own activities accordingly if needed.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about the EU AI Act. There was so much effort that was put into it so far, and quite simply, if it will represent an enormous obstacle for organizations. And again, it's not just about the corporate world, but also for EU in general, because these are things that affect the military, affect defense, affect innovation. It will be hard to stick to it. And most likely, if we're talking about the corporate part, I mean, can't imagine. I can't imagine. I cannot, let's say, exclude that many organizations will go outside of Europe if that's the case. If it will represent an enormous obstacle for them to evolve in terms of AI. We have a question here from Natalia, talking about MDM here. So what role does MDM play in ensuring that whatever direction goes, however direction goes, one way or the other, organizations can be compliant and get the best out of AI?
So well, I think it's this election, but also maybe other elections or general changes in politics. I think what we simply should be aware of is that there's a political factor regarding AI regulation, and there's a very strong political factor, and this can go either this way or another way, or maybe change again. So it's very hard to control it. So we have to simply live with it, because we do not know exactly the direction it will take. and it might also not be, very consistent. As I mentioned, it might change. So we have to get prepared. And so what is the best way to prepare is simply to be in full control of your data and what happens to your data. So what I think is an absolute must is, already today you have external AI services where you might want to integrate with your applications, or it's already integrated, like also with our applications. You can switch it on or off, but if you switch it on, you have it, and you can directly use different external services together with our MDM solution, also some own internal engines, of course. So, of course, it's guaranteed that your data is protected and everything. You can trust this or maybe not. So what I think what you definitely should you should be in absolute control of what you're doing. This means you need to be able to control what kind of data you send over to AI services and external AI engines and make available, and what data you don't. So this is, I think, the minimum. So you always have full transparency and full control. I think as long as you're, even because we do not exactly know what might happen in the future and what happens to regulations, etc. And because of this, I think this is simply the minimum. So you can immediately adjust and then either go for more open overall setting or more closed. And you can adjust this very easily. So regarding MDM, it simply means, again, a little bit higher requirements on how to manage your data, and especially the possibility to classify the data according to what is allowed to be used and consumed and worked on by AI services and AI engine, and what is maybe not allowed because you simply don't want to do it, or only allowed by those models and engines that are running on your own platform, and you can 100% control in your data center or whatever. In our case, is part of our application, for example. So that's something what we absolutely recommend. And I also noticed that many players in the industry were already thinking about it, and this is definitely a major concern for many.
Yeah, I was going to say the way I kind of look at it is, irrespective of how the election goes and what happens with regards to the acceleration of AI, I think one thing that companies are learning and our customers are learning is that data governance and taxonomy and internal, definitions are very important to get the richness out of what you're doing with regards to ChatGPT or any of these AI technology sets. I mean, otherwise it becomes relatively generic in some respects. So there's been more of an impetus to kind of internally assess data and data quality. And I think that that's an important part of the thought process to be ready for wherever the technology takes us, because having that and having a handle on that will allow you to capitalize on the emerging technologies that are coming, irrespective of whether they're X or Y in terms of what's being provided. And as I opened up, I mean, we're already seeing companies that are getting tremendous returns through the use of AI. I mean, we have customers that are doing it with large language models and doing translation and localization, automated using our solution, or auto text generation, these types of things. But I think what you're going to see more and more of is a combination of AI and ML, where you're kind of doing a search on language and definitions, and then computations in terms of an application with something coming out the back end. And we're doing some of that with sustainability, where you're looking at material substitutions and then quantifying what the content of the various materials are, which requires a computation aspect. So you kind of have to look at, really understanding those aspects within your organization. But as we've mentioned in this discussion, what happens in the election will definitely influence the acceleration of the new things that are emerging. And so to be in the best position to capitalize on them, you have to know kind of, what you're doing from a governance perspective within your organization, and where some potential hits are. I think that's a key thing to consider.
Yeah, I mean, we can't influence the election that much. I mean, aside from voting, and we cannot influence uh, very much the way technology will evolve as well. But having control over your data is definitely the thing that can be influenced, and that's what MDM does. Therefore, it's much easier then to adapt and get the best out of wherever the technology leads us, or wherever the governments will decide, however the governments will decide to regulate or deregulate AI. So that's definitely central. I agree with you fully. So tell me more about, you mentioned that there are some of your clients, some of your customers that are already getting quite a quite a return by using artificial intelligence. And let me tell you, I've heard more cases of AI initiatives that didn't go well than cases where there was a return. So I'm interested to hear more. Can you share some examples, case study?
Yeah,
Uh,
so and actually, we had a user group. We actually had a customer that talked about the use of AI for auto language translation. And so, and once again, I think we've talked in the past about some of these things too. AI is not totally a silver bullet. It's not 100%. So
yeah,
when you go through and do your initial translation and you do through, for localization, you can get an efficiency of, 70 to 90%. You still have to have oversight in the workflow and kind of be able to go through,
yeah,
have someone review it to make sure that it's appropriate. But the cost savings is significant, and the reduction in terms of product introduction is very significant, 70 to 90% depending on the company. So you have a lot of things that are there that our users have been able to see. And so there are huge efficiencies with regards to being able to use external translation tools like a DeepL as an example in concert with a workflow to actually manage translation within your application set. And with that, though, you have to kind of use some logic in terms of what's the workflow, the approval process, getting the product to be able to be brought to market. The other thing that needs to be considered too is, what are you going to expose versus what are you not going to expose? Are you going to send product proprietary product information out into the ether like on a ChatGPT externally? Or are you going to do things behind the firewall and make sure that you are using a micro model to do some of these types of things, or translation services behind your firewall? We have some companies that are doing that because they don't want their product data out in the ether. So you have different scenarios, but the returns are there. What it really comes down to is, doing it smartly and thinking through it from you know a perspective of being able to get the return on it. If you're going to go out and do something and just say, "Oh, I'm going to rely on a translator," and then push it out, it could be a disaster for you because you still need that oversight. But if you use it as a tool for efficiency and still have the oversight, you get huge returns. And that's just one example.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. So it's really, if you go for the low-hanging fruits, you already have a significant productivity multiplier. So and this is low risk. So this is really easy gains, very low risk, very high success rate, like Al mentioned with auto translation. So this is almost always a success and really helps a lot. There are other examples when it's about improving data quality. They can also really do a lot and simply improve your efficiency significantly. When it's about yeah, personalized communication. So here also text based generative AI can help you significantly, really significantly. So this is already a kind of game changer here. It is a completely different productivity that you get, and as a result, it allows you to do much more than you do today. And again, implementation is easy, risk is extremely low. So if you go to more complex things, so higher the complexity is, of course, and this is probably also the reason why there are also some projects around that fail. I think first, of course, the higher the overall complexity is, the higher is the risk, and this gets lower with time, because technology is really improving fast, and I can also handle, so even complex scenarios are getting more easy and easy over time. So here, in some cases, I would actually almost suggest wait a little bit, and then do it at a later stage, and now focus on the more easy and low-hanging stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one part, and I also think that it is a little bit getting familiar with the technology. So as I already mentioned, it's not the silver bullet. So you cannot just switch it on and everything works. You have to consider something, processes everything around it as well, and orchestrate everything in the right way. And here simply, some organizations are still lacking that experience. And this is, of course, also a little bit of a risk factor, but I think you just have to go through this, and then you have the experience, and then you can do it.
You mentioned personalized text there.
Yeah.
And of course, with generative AI has been used massively over the last year. It changed everything. What do you think? Should people know when they're dealing with an AI agent or AI generated communication messages or something like this, or it doesn't matter?
I think that is an interesting question, because this again hits the topic of do you want to regulate or not? So if there's no regulation, then well, it's of course voluntarily companies can make this information available, so you can recognize it, but those who don't want to do it, don't do it. So then it's simply not regulated here. I think, yeah, I would actually say it's good to highlight it, so that something has been generated by AI. Personally, I don't think that on the long run it will be like this. So personally, I think this will be skipped. And it will not be highlighted, actually. So it's like it's just there, because it's very difficult to regulate this on a large scale. So I don't think it will be regulated, and on the long run, I think most companies won't do it, and people get used to it. People get used to it. So it's also when you read something, right now AI is new. I don't know, but for example, like commercials. Yeah, do you believe everything you see in a commercial? Not necessarily. You're used to how this works, etc. AI is completely new. So now it's exciting, it's irritating, it's fascinating, what you can do with it, that everybody can look like whoever. So all this, but society also gets used to it and also gets a feeling on how to handle it. So we are also here in a kind of transition period. So that's my opinion.
Yeah. What's the shame about that? Like, what's the problem about saying it's AI generated? If an organization uses AI to produce certain material, I think I would appreciate, look, personally, being involved also in marketing and so on, I can spot an AI generated text from a mile. Okay. So I would rather have an organization state that it's AI generated. Okay, fine, it's your decision, than to hide it or something. So I agree with you, Jürgen, that it will most likely it won't be regulated. But then again, if we are pricing transparency and all of that, and honesty and so on, why not stating it for organizations? I would appreciate more the transparency of stating it. It would make it also more acceptable and accepted. And if, for instance, I'm dealing with an AI agent and it does a good job, happy days, you know? What's the problem with that?
Yeah,
So,
no, I
but
agree.
yeah,
It's no problem. It's a strategy. We could take this as a strategy and provide full transparency. Yeah.
exactly. Which, by the way, I remember us talking long ago about the topic of transparency as a very important pillar in order to
Yeah.
get AI accepted and also get the best form of AI implemented in society, aside from all the regulations and so on. When there is a level of transparency, people can begin to trust the technology even without having an imposition coming from, the top, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fully agree.
Yeah, and that's where MDM again plays a big role, because that's where you get the data, isn't it?
Yes.
Very good, very good. What do you personally hope for, both of you? Your opinion and your what do you hope for? Meaning, are we for you as individuals in this company, are you more towards an unregulated or regulated form of artificial intelligence?
Well, I actually hope that we really find the right balance. Both is not really good. Completely unregulated, I think this is really very dangerous. So all those discussions about the risks of AI are for a good reason. So there are risks, simply. And we can handle the risks the more we are getting used to it, and the more advanced the technology is, and the more experience we have, etc. If you are over-regulating, you also miss a lot of opportunities. And then if you really balance it the right way, then maybe a little less regulation, a little bit more risk-taking is the better option. So I think that it's really key that it's balanced, not completely unregulated, but also not over-regulated. And this is what I hope for, that it is really tempting because it is so much behind it, because it is such a revolution and it's had such a big impact on the different topics that I mentioned. So it is very tempting simply to move too much into one of those extremes. So there is a risk, and I hope we find a way in the middle.
Al?
I'm more of a wild, wild west guy, unfortunately.
Of course. That shows, by the way, the difference.
I'm pretty sure there are many in Silicon Valley who would really celebrate everything which is going the direction of less or no regulation. And I agree, it helps. And just think of this little example with drugs and drug development. So this can make a significant impact on somebody's life if it's some years difference whether something is available or not. This makes a lot of a difference. And then maybe compared to it, being a little bit less strict with data privacy and things like that. Okay, might in the end be the better option, but yeah. So we will see. I think again we have different different approaches how to handle it. And so we will see. But I still I'm not 100% convinced about really just a complete deregulated technology. Of course, we are a company. We want to earn money. We want to innovate. We want to move fast. So I'm definitively not a fan of too much regulation, but as I mentioned, responsible and balanced, but not kind of cutting too much down on innovation. So balanced. This is really key.
Well, I should have added a caveat. So as part of being Wild Wild West, I think the energy should go into innovation. I think we should innovate,
Yeah,
but I think there should be a penalty if you do something that's toward with this stuff. I mean, if you do something that people know it's out of bounds, then you get slapped essentially. And so I don't want to meter innovation. I want the energy to go into being able to make the advancements. And but if you do something where you're using AI for something which is draconian, then obviously as an organization you did pay the price. And so that's kind of my mindset on this thing. It's let people go innovate, make it happen. But if you do something that societally people reject, then you should pay the price for it. And people know when they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. I mean, that's intrinsic.
yeah,
You know, the thing is that there are so many nuances in this. There are cultural differences. I mean, already right now when we're discussing, there is obviously you all coming from an area where there is no GDPR, and and of course in Europe we're still thinking a bit about data privacy and all of this. Where the GDPR is, of course, certain topics were already raised about data protections and so on. I think, though, that if we are letting these differences and each country dictate how to handle AI, then there's going to be, a fragmentation of how we see AI. There's going to be countries with massive innovations, countries that are stuck. So personally, I think that establishing certain principles that you can count on your hand, and that you shouldn't skip on, that could be something that almost every country at a world level could agree on. If you go with a hyper complicated regulation, then you're going to have one in Europe, one in each country, and it's going to be very difficult to create a cohesive view on how to handle AI and especially what to do and what are the red lines you shouldn't cross at any cost, let's say. So yeah, I hope basically that there will be a red line, but that this red line is going to be described in the most simple and agreeable way possible, so that every government almost could get behind that degree. That they shouldn't go forward. They shouldn't go past that. What do you think?
yeah. I personally, actually, I'm not really worried about the fact that it will be a relatively low level red line,
Yeah,
because we do have this geopolitical competition on being the leader in AI technology. So there is
yeah,
a geopolitical competition about this, and this makes it difficult to agree on something. It's always you have this competition, so you want to make sure that you are in the best position, and so this. Therefore, anyway, pretty convinced that if there are some global agreements, if they are reached, that it will be on a relatively low level, so
very.
nobody overcommits too much. So in the end, it will be a relatively low level regulation on a global basis. But it doesn't mean that some regions might decide differently on their own. So this might happen, and here it's of course again. So I think everybody should think about that. We are getting into this competition, so it's also about investing. That also regulating one thing, but also investing in AI technology and AI innovation. This is also an important factor. And both is required in order to get a good and strong position with regard to this technology.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay, very good. As usual, it's always very interesting to discuss with you, and it's been some time. We've been talking about AI.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is it going the way you thought it was going to evolve? Because we spoke, I believe it was almost a year ago. we had the first session on artificial intelligence and and ethical principles, or the future of work, and all these kinds of topics we touched. Is it going the way you thought it would go?
So from my side, yes. Absolutely. It is moving forward with quite some speed. Technology advances are significant. Yes, absolutely. We are still in the early stages of adopting the technology, but we can already see that it is a game changer with many things, and we can also already experience the speed of innovation and the progress we have. This is really significant. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. What we can also already see is a little bit what will be coming in the future. Like, for example, at the moment, it's mainly also what probably you are using and most are using. It's mainly LLMs that are focusing on one thing, like for example, image or text and other things. The normal human communication is more complex. This is much more difficult. So there you have more dimensions to it. So the current models are mainly, let's call it one-dimensional. The human communication is multidimensional. So you have the visual aspect to it, you have emotion, you have of course language. So lots of different senses, and everything is kind of combined. When it's about large language models and AI technology, the way you are handling text is a completely different concept than the way you are handling and maybe auto-optimizing or creating images. So the complexity here is that we have completely different concepts, but this is now also something we are already. It's already there, and it's of course difficult, but this multi-modality in one large LLM. So that is also something that you can already see coming, and this is another big benefit. It is difficult because of this complexity. It requires an additional, even more computing power and things like that. But you can really see also some advancements. So it's definitely developing according to what we expected. Yeah.
Al, what about you?
Yeah,
Everything is
actually,
expected?
yes and no. I mean, it's interesting because I think in a lot of respects, in some respects, it's outpaced my expectations, and in others, it hasn't. It's kind of a strange thing. Obviously, Gartner has the hype cycle, and so I mean, immediately when the LLMs came out, everyone jumped on it, and you thought, man, this thing's going to really rock and roll. And it has actually. I think a ton of companies have tried it, have started working with it. I think some companies have gotten burned with it. You pointed out some of the people getting burned and kind of maybe stepping back and looking at it in terms of like, hey, what should we do here? But I think more and more of them are pushing forward with things, and they're just right sizing the initiatives and the efforts that they're working on, because they're almost like to what we talked about back when we said in the beginning, hey, go with proven stuff instead of trying stuff that's not.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of companies got some great ideas, and they tried to marry some of the LLM stuff with the machine learning and write an application, which they realized, hey, by the time we do all this computation and spend all the money on these servers and kind of get this out and do this thing, that the model and the actual AI algorithm is more costly than the benefit. So you get into some of those types of things. But the flip side is, on certain applications, it's very, you make a ton of money. The returns and cost savings are significant. So it comes down to the right sizing. And there have been articles recently, as I mentioned, even with the Walmarts of it. I think companies are saying that there's big value here. It's like we just need to focus and figure out where the low hanging fruit is, make the investments on that, and then expand on it, and then take advantage of some of the emerging things that Jürgen even pointed out. Like you have a lens into where this is going. You can see it. But So from that perspective, I think more groups, more companies, more people are aware of AI, and it's kind of pervasive, and I think that that's been a very good thing. And I think more companies have experimented with it and are making progress with it. So I think it's catching on in some respects more than I thought. But I,
Mm.
I think, and it actually probably has even exceeded some of Gartner's hype cycle thing too, because it did level out there a little bit, but I think it's picking up again too. So.
Yeah. So what maybe many have underestimated, and this is definitively slowing down the adoption a bit. This is actually the importance of the data. So as an enterprise, if you really want to make full use of AI and also implement it quickly and easily, then you simply rely on good data. If you don't have the data, you have a problem. And if you don't have the data today, it might be quite an effort to get to that level where you have this AI ready, high quality, easy to compute data directly available. So that could be quite an effort. And this is what quite some underestimated, and this is slowing down adoption. Yes, but
Yes.
regarding
Yeah.
technological advancement, no, this is great. So the speed of innovation in AI technology, this is incredible. But the adoption simply requires the data.
Yeah, that's what hypes do, isn't it? They overestimate something and underestimate something else.
Right.
And about data, 100%. And finally, organizations are catching up with this, understanding that it's fundamental. And in other fields as well, like we were talking about, image generation or text generation, for instance, AI in marketing. Yeah, we kind of I mean, not me, but there was an underestimation of human creativity in the whole and human communication and all its nuances in it. I mean, now as organizations thought of suddenly swapping swapping AI, swapping creatives with AI, you have messaging that looks all too similar between organizations. So I can see that again and again. It's about underestimating one area, which is still the supervision of the human or the particular way humans communicate between each other, and overestimation of the power of AI, which still learns from humans, but it cannot copy that yet, and maybe it shouldn't. Maybe there are some things that should be left out and should be, where the cost benefit scenario is also not worth the investment in artificial intelligence. Don't know what they are yet, but what do you think? Aside from marketing. Okay, very good. So, a long session as usual, and it's always a pleasure to have you. But of course, there are some more viewers that are leaving. Alberto, thank you very much for being with us. Natalia, thank you very much again. And for anyone who would like to know more about Via Medici, about artificial intelligence, or simply for people that would like to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Well, so they should go to our website, viamedici.com. There's a lot of information up there. They can also go to the Global LinkedIn site. We're constantly posting new things, and as AI, as you've seen on all these sessions, it's been evolving. So we're kind of posting out new blogs and new information around these topics on a relatively consistent basis. So you can keep informed with some of the changes there, or you can reach out to us directly. So that's there as well.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you once again, and I look forward to the next time we speak again about another exciting topic. Any last message you would like to leave our audience with?
I think we had a quite comprehensive discussion. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us in the session. It was great being here. Thanks a lot, Pio.
And
Always a pleasure.
My message to the U.S. folks is go vote. And I'll leave it at that. It's been a great session. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure for me as well. And I want to wish the audience a fantastic continuation of the day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.